Good evening. The United Nations General Assembly has designated 13 October each year as the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction to encourage governments and residents to get involved in building more disaster-resilient communities and nations. There is no such thing as natural disasters. Instead, we should speak of natural hazards. The Caribbean has been identified as the second most vulnerable region in the world to natural hazards, including storms and hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, landslides, volcanic eruptions, storm surge, beach erosion, soil erosion, bush and forest fires, and drought. The emergence of climate change, which has already begun to impact countries in and beyond our region, is another important reason that should prompt us to action in order to reduce the risk of hazard impacts that can result in disaster situations. The theme for this year's commemoration is Knowledge for Life, and is an opportunity to highlight the value of applying traditional, indigenous and local knowledge which complements modern science to assist individuals and the wider communities to further build resilience. What is risk reduction and building resilience? Disaster risk reduction is about taking actions to reduce loss of life and damage caused by natural hazards. Although in most instances you and I cannot prevent hazard impacts, there are things we can do as individuals, communities and countries to enable us to cope when impacted and recover quickly thereafter. When these happen, we are said to be resilient. Like other small island developing states, this year's appeal and focus is most relevant to St. Kitts and Nevis, which, on repeated occasions over the last 20 years, has experienced the impact of several hazards, including Hurricanes Louis, Marilyn, George, and Lenny, a major flash flood, and also the present ongoing drought situation. As a country with very limited finances and located in highly active seismic region and with constant threats associated with the annual hurricane season, it is imperative that we develop and adopt deliberate policies and programs to mitigate the impact of hazards. Consequently, as the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, with responsibilities including disaster management, I am pleased to be associated with today's commemoration of the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. Our National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is playing a lead role in coordinating our disaster mitigation and management efforts. This year's theme, Knowledge for Life, encourages us not only to rely on information on the internet and other modern electronic and print media sources, but also to use the vast knowledge of the seniors in our various homes and communities. Our grandparents, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, and other senior citizens are invaluable sources of free information that cannot be found on the internet. We need to make time to learn from them and teach young people how to live and cope without electricity, refrigerators, freezers, microwave ovens, running water, television, computers, cell phone, tablets, and so on, especially in times of disaster. The theme is a timely reminder that traditional methods, though to some people might be viewed as of the past and old-fashioned, have been applied, proven reliable, less costly and effective in being resilient in times of severe challenge or disaster. The way buildings were constructed many years ago with steep roofs, air vents in the eaves, shutters, also water cisterns, and withstood the forces of storms and earthquakes are still relevant today and are highly recommended by researchers, engineers, and other technicians. Their knowledge of simple, inexpensive, tried and proven ways to preserve, prepare, cook, and store foods also prevent and treat illnesses without using chemicals, to prevent or reduce negative impacts on our health. These need to be exposed to and discussed with, especially the present generation. Let us remember, life is a cycle. The wisdom of our senior citizens should also be captured and used to help us learn and understand how they save money from the little they earn in order to cope with what might be considered personal tragedy like sudden illnesses or death, and also national disaster situations. Today's focus on the importance of building resilience is most timely as we are still in the hurricane season and are experiencing very low water levels as a result of unusually low rainfall. This, we are told, will likely continue up to the first 4 months next year. Therefore, let us apply risk reduction measures as individuals and as communities to help us cope and overcome the challenges ahead. The week of activities commences on Saturday and Sunday with church worship. Representatives of NEMA and other stakeholders have also made presentations in secondary schools and at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College. The activities will continue on Wednesday with community outreach, when visits will be made to some of the vulnerable and disadvantaged groups in our society, including the Children's Home, Sadler's Home for the Elderly, New Horizons Rehabilitation Center, and Her Majesty's Prison. On Thursday, 15 October, there will be a panel discussion on ZIZ Radio Prime Talk program from 8 to 10 p.m. on the topic Comprehensive Disaster Management, the road to resilience. The week of activities will end on Friday, 16 October, with a staff development retreat for NEMA. Let us continue to support NEMA and all the stakeholders as we continue to promote a high level of resilience to disaster management in our communities and share our knowledge and experience with others in the pursuit of knowledge for life. Thank you and good night.